And welcome back, everybody, to the TV show. I'm Jay Black, joined as always by Rhea Hughes and the fist pumping Angelo Cataldi. Love to see your excitement, guys. Um, Lots going on in TV, but I wanted to start with something that is a controversy that I'm reading. The producers of this documentary say that there is no controversy. They didn't do anything wrong. But the controversy itself, I think, brings up maybe the most important point going forward in television and movies, which is AI. There is a Netflix documentary called What Jennifer Did. Just make sure I get the name of that right, because What Jennifer Did is the number one documentary on Netflix. And at one point, they flash to a picture of Jennifer in a red dress, and there is some funkiness going on with her hands. Did you see the picture, guys?
And her ears and her nose.
Yeah. And it's the telltale weird spaghetti fingers of AI. It's like, for whatever reason, AI can't, just like me as a kid trying to draw pictures of my family, can't get hands or feet correct.
Yes,
I was actually
exactly.
called I was called into the school psychologist when I was a kid because he asked me to draw pictures of my family, and I didn't draw them with any hands or feet, which apparently indicates I'm a sociopath or something. So they called me in and they're like, "Why didn't you draw the hands or feet?" And I was like, "Too hard. I just it's too difficult to do." AI, same way. Anyway, this sparked a huge controversy that said, did they use AI to make these pictures? The producers of the documentary say, no, we used Photoshop, which is different. We didn't use AI. But either way, I think this is a huge, huge problem that we can't trust what we are seeing in documentaries. And Angela, you disagree or you agree?
Give
I
me a
see.
break, will you please? Oh no, but a reenactment is so real, right?
Right.
Oh, that is. They find the trashiest actors, the people who work scale, right? And then they show them in these shadowy things, right? And oh, that is so pure. I'm going to fight hard to keep that rather than a computer generated thing. I'm sorry, this is not an issue for me. It's AI is going to happen, Jay, whether you want it to or not.
Sure.
Once the technology gets there, get used to it.
Rhea,
Uh,
you're a newswoman. Do you
yeah.
agree with me or you agree with Angelo?
See, well, here's the crazy thing is that I'm amazed at how quickly everyone can immediately pick up that it's AI. I'm not there yet. Like the Kate Middleton picture when they hadn't seen her for months, and she put out a picture on England's Mother's Day, which is different from ours, of her with her kids. And within like 30 minutes, everybody had figured out fingers were missing, arms weren't in the right place.
Right.
To me, people are looking for stuff. So, like, I don't want AI. Like, when you first told me about the controversy, I thought something was AI generated within the story,
Right.
but I didn't realize it was a picture. And for me, I'm like, okay, picture, I'm not going to get all up in arms at. If they had AI'd something to do with the story, then I would have a problem with it.
All right, let me get in here. Jay, this
Yeah.
is where I have to interview you for a second because Rhea had a great point. All right. You should be way more angry when they use AI for writing.
Sure.
You're a friggin' script writer.
Yeah.
Whether they use it to illustrate something that happened in a documentary is not the issue. Rhea's right. The actual creativity that leads to a piece of art or commerce, whichever way you want to look at it, that's where the real issue is. You can't see that. You do it for a living.
So there's protections in place that WGA is working on and have worked on. That was one of the big issues of the WGA strike was no credited AI in production of movies, which I completely agree with and I think is the right thing to do. I think we're going to see low budget movies that are made outside the system that are AI generated as much as possible because not only am I a writer, I'm also a producer. And as a producer Jay likes to screw over writer Jay wherever he can. So that's just the way of the system, which I get. What I'm asking for, and I think we should all ask for, is not an elimination of AI. Angela, you're right. Going back to the Thin Blue Line, they were using reenactments
Yes,
to show this, and it was
badly.
controversial then. But
Yeah.
here's the thing. I know when I'm watching a reenactment, when I see the low Z grade actors show up to
Yes. Okay.
pretend, I know that that's a reenactment.
Yeah.
And even though it influences my brain, and my brain remembers that as fact, I can at least say, I know that they don't have video of this murder.
Yeah.
If they use a picture, all I want is something that is mandated that says AI generated or computer manipulated, something that lets me know
Sure.
that just
Okay.
like I know if I smoke a cigarette, I'm going to get cancer, but I think you should let me know on the
That's
package that
fair.
there's in there. That's
Yeah.
all I want.
That's fair. That's okay. Yes, we're all agreed. See,
Okay.
we got
Yes.
a nice part of agreement. I love it.
But yeah, I do think we're gonna have a problem with that going forward. But let's switch over to something that Netflix did well this week. Are you a Tom Wolfe fan? Either of you? Did you read
Yeah.
Tom?
I'm
Yes.
not.
Yes.
I
Fire the
absolutely
Vanities. I didn't even hate the movie.
no, I didn't hate the movie either. It opens with that awesome long single shot that Brian De
Right.
Palma does, aping Hitchcock. Wonderful. I love Tom Wolfe. I read all of his stuff. He came out in 1996 with a book called A Man in Full, which was one of the bigger hits of that decade. It was not lauded as much as A Bonfire of the Vanities. And in my brain, I always thought this would make a great movie or TV show, but it was so sort of attacked by the critics when it came out. There's no possible way that they will ever do this. Lo and behold, turn on Netflix. The content beast has given me another gift, which is an 8-part series based on A Man in Full. And I was just thinking that the downside of the golden age of TV is that there's so much stuff out there to watch. It's almost impossible to find, something that we can all agree on. But the upside is that they constantly have to find new stuff to make,
Yeah.
and we're getting these things. So I just wanted to ask you guys, and I'll start with you, Rhea. Do you have a book or item in your reading past that you thought no one will ever make a movie out of this, and then they either wound up doing it or you'd like to see it happen?
Well, unfortunately for me, I'm kind of boring in that, like, I read a lot of popular books. Michael Connelly, the Bosch series on Prime was one of the first major streamers I ever watched. Uh, I think my two greatest books that I've ever loved in my entire life, Fried Green Tomatoes and Seabiscuit, were made into movies, and pretty good movies, I have to say. They were actually pretty good. So you guys read a lot more nonfiction. So I was looking into it. I never realized that Mean Girls, the Tina Fey, written
Mhm.
movie that was phenomenal, was not based off of a fiction book. It was a nonfiction book for parents who had teenage girls going through it was a self-help book. And she goes, that'd make a great movie. So
Right.
I was fascinated by that. But a lot of the books that I read, they eventually make it into movies because they're pretty good.
By the way, I just want to say the breadth of Rhea Hughes is amazing there. Fried Green Tomatoes and Seabiscuit, your two favorite books. You just like food related titles that have nothing to do with each other, which I
But they're
dig.
two of the greatest books I've ever read in my
They're
entire life.
great books. Angelo, what about you? You got a
First of all, A Man in Full. What did you say that's on Netflix? Is that coming on
it's
Netflix?
Netflix next week on Netflix, starring
Okay.
uh
I'm in. I'm
yeah,
in for one reason. Jeff Daniels, in
yes.
my estimation, is probably the most versatile actor of our
Yes.
lifetime. Just consider this. He did Dumb and Dumber,
Yep.
right? With Jim Carrey. He did the Newsroom, which was
Yes, I loved.
that was a very good show, right?
It was.
He was
It was
in that
amazing.
as well, and he was in Wild Child, just a crazy movie, sex and all sorts of. This guy's done it all. So yes,
He's
I'm
in
in
a show
for
right
it.
now that's streaming, Ange, called Rust, which I've
Yeah.
just started to watch, and he plays a small town sheriff, and he's really good in that.
Sheriff. I
Yeah.
does it all. You got to give him that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got one here, and I don't know that I ever mentioned it on here, but it's a TV show. It was one season that I really loved. I got to look up where it is. Station 11. See if you can find Station 11.
HBO, it's on Max.
It's on. It's on. Okay. Thank you, David Zaslav. Anyway, here's the thing. Station 11 in 2014. The basis of the story is there's a massive pandemic that
Wow.
is 4 or 5 years before the pandemic, and it wipes out most of the world. And all that's left that we see at Station 11 is a traveling acting troupe led by Mackenzie Davis, who's really good. She's
great.
been in a lot of stuff, and she's really a good actress. And the thing about it is, it's just a real. I don't like science fiction. I don't like the apocalypse, and I was totally bought into this. It starts in a fascinating way with this guy and this girl he finds on the street just before this horrible pandemic sweeps the world and wipes everybody out. It's just a great story. And it ends, the last 2 or 3 episodes are in an abandoned airport, which I have never seen.
Right.
Did you see Station 11?
I did. That was where they were keeping all the technology, right? It was like a
Yes.
museum. Yes, at the
But
abandoned
it was
airport.
like,
Yeah.
it looked like they actually built an airport. It was amazing. It had to be a high budget. I thought it was great. And if you want to actually see the way they adapt a piece of literature into it, there's a great thing to watch, The Offer on Paramount Plus.
Yes,
which
great.
I can't recommend that highly enough. Miles Teller, the behind the scenes story of how they did The Godfather. And it shows you how the Mario Puzo, who was the author, wrote the original, and then they had to make it into a movie. And it was great. All but the last episode was phenomenal television.
Two things about The Offer. One, I use that. I try to explain to my daughter, who's like huge into book talk. Do you have book talk in your life at all, guys?
Yeah.
No.
It's TikTok where they tell which books to read. And my daughter, of the things to get addicted to online, getting addicted to reading books
Not
is
bad.
not a bad thing. I mean, I'm not upset about it. But all of these books get made into movies and TV movies, and she gets mad because it isn't exactly the same as the book.
Yeah.
And I have to explain to her two different things, honey. But the other thing is, if I ever do a story of my life that I produce, I think if I choose Miles Teller as the guy to play me in the movie, Rhea, you're allowed to come and yell at me for being full of myself. That is the most, because the guy who made The Offer, he's making it about his own life. He's a producer on his own show. And it's like the guy playing him is Miles Teller. And every episode is which woman wants to sleep with Miles Teller this week. And it's like, come on, you got to have a little bit of realistic about yourself. That's all I'm saying. All right. A couple of quick hits here that I wanted to talk to you guys about. I had to drag myself away from the contempt hearing that is currently going on for Donald Trump to come do this podcast. I'm excited that we get to do the podcast, and I was happy that they recessed right before we had to start. Why isn't this on television? Is this not the biggest travesty that has ever happened to this country that we can't follow? We were talking last week, Angelo, about OJ and what a huge thing this was. This is a president of the United States going on trial, and I can't watch it. This is New York law? Is that what I'm dealing with? Is that why I can't watch it?
I got 16 hours a day to fill now that I'm retired. I walk in front of the TV for this. And here's the other thing. Why is some courts are available for TV and some are not?
Yeah.
And there's no blanket rule on that. And this is a man running for president again, that you could form some opinions on his character based on whether it comes out good or it comes out bad. I can't see it. I got to wait for somebody to report it. Well, if Fox News reports it, it might be a lot different spin than if CNN reports it. I want to see it. Rhea, I demand. And one other thing, people get their names changed all the time, right?
Yes.
David Pecker stick with his last name?
I have zero interest in it, but as you know, Jay, and Angelo knows this, I am not a political person. Politics, I know a lot of people view politics as like sports. That's how they consume it. I don't. I go to sports to get away from all that horrible stuff.
I totally I understand that, but just from a newsworthy point of view, a former president of the United States is currently on trial for giving hush money to a porn star. And there's a guy named David Pecker who's in the middle of all of this. This is America. I demand to be able to watch this on TV and then see 500 TV movies about it next year. I want to see Cuba Gooding Jr. as Donald Trump, like they did in the OJ trial. Bring it back. Get David Schwimmer involved. I want to watch it. It drives me nuts. It drives me nuts. I can't watch this.
I'm ready. Do it. How do you think CNN and Fox and all those news networks feel that they can't show it?
Oh my
God!
God!
These experts on, they don't even know what's going on. They're not in the courtroom,
right? And they're releasing transcripts. They're trying to make Americans read. Exactly. That goes against the Constitution. I'm told.
I demand David Pecker.
Thank you for using his first name.
Right.
I would have changed it to penis. At least then there'd be no confusion.
Oh my
Not
God.
since former NASCAR great Dick Trickle have we had a name like
Trickle, yep.
David Pecker. My God.
Love it. Love it.
Somebody in his family has to be named Peter. All right.
No, but see, Angelo will remember this just real quick. Angelo,
Yeah.
remember our famous engineer,
Yes.
Dick Bag?
Dick Bag, 2Gs.
Yeah. I'm sure
He
that's
went with Dick.
yeah.
Like, his name was Richard. And he went, nah, let's do Dick Bag. And he was a great engineer. Don't get me wrong.
Awesome.
He was
Yes.
excellent.
You take this man, Dick Bag, to be your lawfully wedded husband.
Not good. Sorry,
Oh,
Dick.
no, that's going to derail me for the rest of the day. Holy crap. I just wanted to touch on that. We have a lot of little things to touch on. I just wanted to touch on this lightly because I'm the father of a 13-year-old girl. So this probably doesn't affect you guys at all. But Taylor Swift's new album dropped on Friday, and it was a nuclear bomb being dropped on my house. My daughter had a listening party. All of her friends came over. They got pizza and donuts, and they just sat in the basement and they listened to the album straight through. And I was, I love music. I'm a big music guy. I love pop culture. And other than just a very few number of things in the last 2 decades, I feel like this is a vestige of the monoculture that we had prior to the year 2000, when something monumental would drop in pop culture and you would just stop. Like I remember Batman 89. I was 13 years old when Batman 89 came out, the Michael Keaton Batman. And it was my whole summer. That was just the world that I was living in. Did you get touched at all, Rhea, by the Taylor Swift album in your house? Because I know you have a teenager, but it's a boy.
Yeah, it's a boy, and so like he kind of likes. It's funny. I hear him listening to Thriller sometimes, Billie Jean. Like they
Yeah.
kind of like a lot of older music. Can I just ask a question? And this may
Yeah.
make me very dumb because it's the second week in a row you've referenced it. You don't know what monoculture is.
Okay, so just this idea that what we have one culture that we all draw from. And in
Okay,
the old
got it.
days when there was 3 networks, if you
Got
mentioned
it.
Green
Okay.
Acres, even if you
Everybody
didn't watch
knew.
Green Acres, everybody knew Eddie Albert
Got
and Gabor was on
Yeah.
Green Acres together. If I mentioned to you like some of the stuff that my kids watch, like my daughter was watching Livy and Maddie. I have no idea
Yeah.
what that. I had no
No.
idea. I was like, "What is this?" And it's like, "Oh, it's a
Got it.
great
Now
show."
I
It's about
understood.
the
I just said I was pretending last week, and I'm like, I really
Yeah.
want to ask what
No.
monoculture is. So I will tell you this. I like Taylor Swift, so I listened to it. Here's my problem. It's a double album. I kind of got bored after about 8 songs,
Yeah.
and I was like, I'll come back to it. And really, I only liked one of the songs out of the 8 that I listened to, and that was the one with Post Malone. But yeah, I haven't heard anything from from my teenage son with it because that's just not his thing. But I do like her, and I was like, oh cool, Taylor dropped an album. Let me go listen to it. But again, too long, too many
Yeah.
songs.
Yeah, let me give you monoculture. This, I think you'll be able to relate to it. Monoculture was Michael Jackson
Yeah.
after Thriller, Elvis way back in
Yeah.
the 50s, the Beatles in the 60s, Muhammad Ali for his whole run was he bridged every culture and everybody was into him. Here's the thing now. Jay, you worry me. You really do. You're concerned so much about AI. Meanwhile, and this is what frightens me about Taylor Swift, who I also like, although her new album stinks. All right. I'll just say it. All right. Now I'm going to.
And I'm with you. I'm telling you, 8 songs. I was like,
It's not good. But here's the thing, her followers are so devoted, they will not even tolerate any negativity.
No.
Like if I don't matter to them, but if they heard, oh, there's some jackass out in Philadelphia who can't stand Taylor Swift. No, I love Taylor Swift. I don't like her album. Jay, your daughter is part of that.
Yeah.
And you're worried about reenactments with AI. You should worry about the Swifties. The Swifties they're not tolerating dissent. They have this pulpit now with the internet and social media. That's where you should be worried. You should sit that girl down and calm her down.
I just want to say this as a blanket statement for any Swifties that are listening. Angelo speaks for himself and not for the rest of this podcast. If you are going to attack us, Actually, you know what? I did give my daughter, I said, you know what we used to do with the White Album is we used to say, if this were one album, what would the songs be if you only had to choose
Oh,
one album? And my daughter was like, oh, that's a great idea. And she sat down and put together her one album for Tortured Poets department. So I was like, that was a nice moment that I had with my
fun.
daughter.
Yeah.
It's
And
mom. It's good
and
parenting.
and all I want to say is again, if she listens to this, Angelo speaks for himself. That's all I'm saying. I don't want to get in trouble with this
Sorry,
Swifties.
Swifties. I'm here to give my honest opinion.
Last thing I wanted to talk about was CBS did a repeat of the Billy Joel
Yep.
concert. It crushed for them. They got 7 million the first airing. They got a 3 million on the repeat. They get 10 million people with this live concert that they air and that they messed up, and we killed them on it
Yeah.
last week for it. Why aren't there more concerts on TV? Is it because there's not enough big stars that people would watch? You talk about monoculture, like I mean, who could you put on? But it seems to me that this is easy content for a network to put on. People obviously seem to care about it. 10 million people watched. Rhea, would you watch a concert on TV? And do you think that there should be more of it?
Would, and I think Angelo might agree with me or understand it. It's like sports where there were blackouts. You
Yeah.
want to sell the seats. So, I mean, honestly, and in this day and age, people would rather watch stuff at home, like me, like I do. I think it's, that they want to have the seats sold, and then maybe they'd show the concert. But I mean, listen, when they do the Hall of Fame ceremony for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I watch it every year. I love it.
Yeah, it's great.
So
Great.
I love watching live singing. The Grammys, it's the only award show I watch because I like to see the performances. But I think that might be a reason why they're worried about seat sales.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, that makes sense. But I mean, if you pay him enough, I wouldn't, you'd give away the seats, right? I mean, Angelo, do you want to see more concerts?
I watched the repeat just to see what everybody was talking about.
Right.
Billy Joel is a very good performer. He did 100 Madison Square Garden.
It's amazing.
Come on. The quality is not that great. It didn't sound that good. Listen to it.
Yeah.
Did you ever a concert? You go to a concert to hear the music in its purest form, right up close. Wasn't close to that, especially in an arena. So I understand. Look, he's singing the same stuff he sung for 50 years, right?
Right.
And people got upset because they didn't hear Piano Man for the 119,000, right? But it's not the same experience. And I would be unlikely to watch it. But I would also be unlikely to go to a concert because I'm old and people stand up. So I may not be the right one to ask.
I'm just gonna say I would, if CBS is listening, put on concerts because I love music, but I'm like Angela, I don't want to leave my house ever.
Yeah.
All
Keep
right.
me out of now. Now I would like to distance myself from that comment. How's that, Swifties?
Couple of just one last bit of follow up before we get to the British and teen segment. Sporlush, am I pronouncing that correctly? Sporlush.
Yes, for loose.
Oh my God, Angela.
Scariest ending ever.
I know why it's scary for you without ruining anything. I know
don't
why
ruin
it's not going to, and it's the same reason it's scary for me, Angelo. Because if someone says to you, the only way to know is to go through it, I'm going to go through it. I think I say, yeah, I got to know. And that's the part that scares you. Because if you could walk away, the movie doesn't happen. And I'm trying to walk around the ending. You got to see the ending for yourself. But Rhea, it's basically you know who the bad guy is through the whole thing. And this guy,
and I saw the Americanized version of it, and I know, which I know, but I am claustrophobic, and therefore the thought of putting myself through something that's even worse, but better done, I can't do it.
I got a lot of reaction from last week, and some people are really went, "Why? I've never seen anything like that." And other people are like, "Thanks for nothing." Now I got to think about that the rest of my life. It's not. You could see the 1988 version of The Vanishing, not 93, what Rhea just referenced. It is available, and it is the most incredible ending in the history of cinema.
It's amazing, and it's chilling. Now, did you get a chance to watch Fallout, Angelo? Do you want to talk about that during your segment, or do you want to talk about it?
No, I will say right here, that when I watched Fallout at your recommendation, the only thing I could think, Jay, was why aren't they making more TV shows based on video games? Because video games are such great fodder for in-depth viewing.
Yeah.
The plot is so rich in detail, and it is unmitigated swill. All right, it's impossible to watch. It's a comic book. It's Jay. If this is the slop you're watching, I'm going to do an intervention. Honestly, you think that's good?
I really enjoyed it. I got to tell you, it got renewed immediately. I was not alone in this, Angelo. Many other people watched it and enjoyed it.
Right.
I thought maybe because you like 1950s retro futurism, you would
it
set
didn't even
design.
do a good job at that. But no, it's awful. And you know, I'll watch it again if they do an AI version. All right, Jay, just so I can troll you.
All right. So let's switch over to something that we all can enjoy, which is the British segment. And Rhea is very excited. She said she's got a great one for us.
I have a great one. It's called Mr. Bates versus the Postman. It is available on Prime. It's just 4 episodes. I did not know this story. This movie is this series is based on an actual true story. It's called the British Post Office Scandal, in which hundreds of sub-postmasters, these are the postmasters who run, you know, the little post offices that are dotted throughout England. They were wrongly prosecuted when the post office in like 2003, 2004 switched over to this computer program called Horizon. They wound up going after these poor postal people for theft, for fraud, for false accounting. Every time one of these postmasters would pick up the phone and call the IT people for help, first time we're ever hearing about it. Just to give you an idea, there were 900 convictions related to this, okay? Normal people, homes stolen, they lost their home savings. Many went to prison. 4 committed suicide. Okay.
Jesus.
So when you watch this story, you're watching this corporation, the Postal Service, go after these little people. And you want to literally, I had to keep reminding myself that this was a true story, that this went on. And it's really well done. One of the independent investigators broke down in tears after he spoke to the 4th person about this, about what they had done to these little people who are making like $50,000 a year, and said, I don't even know how you're still standing. So it's here's the amazing thing. This people knew about this scandal. When it all finally ended and they got some lump sum of like 50 million, well, it had to be split between, you know, the 900 people. Each person wound up only getting about $20,000, which in no way covered all of the money they had lost. That this show aired in January in England, and there's a massive outcry to fix these, overturn the convictions. These people are finally, but I mean, it's been going on for 20 years. It is phenomenal. Here's the crazy thing. So I see 3 episodes. And yesterday, Ange, I'm trying to watch the 4th, the final one. It doesn't drop in the States until April 29th. So I have 1 more episode, but you will watch this show. It universally loved. 94% critics, 96 audience. Everybody thinks it's amazing. But what this corporation did to these people, and nobody, no executive, no government person has ever been convicted of a crime and what they did to these people.
What's the name again, Rhea?
Mr. Bates versus the Postman. It's available on Prime.
Great. Sounds fantastic.
Yeah. That does sound fantastic. And what do you got for us teen-wise, Rhea?
So this was interesting. Clark and I the other day, we were talking about, he and I obviously don't like a lot of the same movies, and we were ruminating on when we had gone to see Spider-Man No Way Home, and he remembered that when that's the one where Tobey Maguire shows up, Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland, and that half the audience, because there were parents who had brought their kids, went wild with applause when Tobey Maguire showed up, because that's my Spider-Man. So he had never seen the Tobey Maguire ones, the 3 ones there. So he says, there are 14 Spider-Mans. I didn't realize there were that many. So he started with Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire in 2002. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
So he's looking forward to it. And I found out they may be doing a 4th Spider-Man. with Tobey Maguire.
Yep.
Supposedly that's in the works, but he was like so intrigued by the fact that I love Tobey Maguire so much. And I have to say, the other two I like as well, but Tobey's my guy. And he really liked it. He's looking forward to the next two.
My
Where did you
son,
watch it? Where was it?
Oh God, it's everywhere. You can see it.
Yeah.
Let me just look that up real quick.
Disney Plus would have it because they're
Yeah, yeah. He asked me for the code. I should have known.
my son was at Spider-Man 2 last night. Because they're
Really?
doing re-releases, one a week this month, and Spider-Man 3 comes out next Monday
In the movie theaters?
in the movie theater. He said it
Oh,
was
I gotta tell Clark
packed.
that.
Yep, packed, absolutely packed. And I said, "How good people?" And he said, "They're my people. They could bathe a little bit better. They're very nerdy. They could bathe a little bit more." Angelo, what do you got for us? And
Right. I've changed my philosophy a little bit on my little segment here. I have realized that I give a lot of recommendations, but then I don't tell you something you should avoid.
okay,
So I started last week, and I'm going to do this most weeks when I do it. I'll give you a recommendation, something I'm really enjoying, and a thing you should avoid at all costs. All right. I'll save that for a minute. Both of my recommendations involve notable Irish performers. All
all
right.
right.
The first is really good. It's a private detective story. Very stylish, very well done by a streamer that is really now known for quality TV, Apple Plus, and it's called Sugar. And it
Sugar.
stars Colin Farrell,
I
who
love
I've
him.
liked in nothing up until
Really?
this. He is phenomenal in this. He's so cool. He's got his own issues to deal with. He's a private detective who is great at finding missing people. And it takes you through a case. And it's got all sorts of twists and turns to it, but it's just style. And you end up really rooting for this guy. You'll like him. And I think it's terrific. And I think most people that watch it will really like it. And a tribute to Apple Plus, who right now, Palm Royale, I haven't mentioned yet on the show. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Kristen Wiig's in it. Lessons in Chemistry. Steve, the great Steve Martin documentary, Platonic. They've been doing a lot of really good
Slow Horses
Yeah.
is
Slow Horses.
phenomenal.
Yep.
Yeah.
Rhea, Apple TV is becoming known now for the quality streamer. And I highly recommend Sugar on Apple Plus. And avoid at all costs on Max Conan O'Brien's travel show.
Really?
God.
Conan
Oh, no.
must go. Oh, does it stink? And let me say something else about Conan O'Brien. All right. He's now doing two basic things with his career. All right. This is how his creativity has completely left him. All right. He's doing long form interviews on his podcast, stealing from David Letterman. That's what David Letterman did after he retired.
Yeah.
And now he's doing a travel show where he's the awkward guy going into different spots, which Eugene Levy is doing way better. The Reluctant Traveler, way better. This stinks. Oh, I'll give you an example. He's in, I think he's Norway or some Norwegian place, and he decides to go in and get clothes, and he wears some stupid outfit, and he walks around, and people tell him they don't dress like that anymore. I mean, there's Rhea, that's like 7 or 8 minutes of gone. It's not funny. None of it is funny. Conan, do what I did. When you lose your fastball, retire. It's time. But do not watch Conan Must Go on Max. It's a stink bomb.
And I just want to say that if Conan is listening and wants to give me a writing job, I would gladly take it, just as an FYI.
You are such a whore. Anyway.
What do we do this week?
Jay Black highly recommends the new documentary, What Jennifer Did, aided by a lot of AI. It's coming up on Netflix. Man in Full is coming up on Netflix. Sounds pretty good. I said you got to check out for adaptation Station 11 on Max. The Offer is the best adaptation I've ever seen behind the scene. That's on Paramount Plus. The Trump trial is available nowhere. And Jay Black is not happy. All right. Rhea Hughes is strongly recommending Mr. Bates versus the Postman on Prime. Spider-Man now. Watch the whole series on Disney Plus. By all means, check out Sugar on Apple Plus, and do not watch Conan Must Go on Max.
Guys, how many other TV podcasts can get you that many recommendations in a half hour? Come on. Tell a friend about us. Come on.
Get the word out there. We have a fine podcast.
Yes, people need to know about it. Angelo Cataldi, you can find it at angelocataldi.com. Newly reinvented. You got to go check it out. You can also get his book there, Audible or Amazon or anywhere you get books. But go to angelocataldi.com. Tell some people about this podcast. We give you great content every week, and we will be back next week with even more. Thank you so much for listening.